And I had really long hair, but I started to go bald, and so I cut it all off. And are we talking about hair or music? I should probably get back on track. And I saw him, doing this alternate tunings and banging on the guitar. And I was just like, wow, this is so cool. So I picked up a VHS cassette of his where he was teaching how to play some of his techniques, and I learned a couple of tunes off that, and then got a couple of his CDs and tried to learn a bunch more of his songs by ear after I kind of picked up some of the techniques, and kind of went from there, and then eventually tried to write some of my own, and drifting came out of that. So, all right. So that tune's in a tuning called Dadgad, which is a real common altered tuning. And a lot of sort of Celtic tunes are in that tuning. And there's a great guitarist named Pierre Ben Suzanne, who's he's probably the master of that tuning. He can play in any key, knows all the chord shapes and do everything, and he's a wonderful composer and player. But that's really the only song I've written in Dadgad, but it's a great tuning because it's a suspended fourth chord. I knew that one was out of date. But so what that means is you don't have a third in it. There's no major or minor third, which is kind of cool. So you can kind of make it major or minor without having it being just kind of forced upon you because of the tuning. So Dadgad, pretty cool. So does anybody have any questions on that tune that they've been wondering about, or any questions on life in general? Or yeah.
Can you talk about the fan frets?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, you might have noticed this guitar it's called fanned fret, a fanned fret guitar neck, or multi-scale guitar neck. And what that means is the frets are fanned out from the nut to the bridge, and the whole idea behind it is the intonation is better than a regular guitar. If you play guitar, you might have noticed, like maybe when you get up around the 7th or 9th fret, sometimes if you do like a bar chord, some of the notes might sound just a little bit out. It's just slight, but what this neck tries to do is compensate for that, and in the different positions, the intonation is better. So if you think of like a piano or a harp, the bass strings are longer and the treble strings are shorter. The same thing happens on this guitar because the nut is angled that way and the bridge is angled this way. So that means that the first string has a shorter scale length, and then they progressively get longer scale length as you go to the bass string. So. And it looks pretty cool, which is nice, but it definitely helps with the intonation. The only thing that's kind of weird is like if you're in the first position doing like an F, you really have a kind of exaggerated angle that you have to do compared to what you might be used to. But your hand kind of does that anyway as you go up and down ergonomically. Your wrist sort of bends like that if you just let it go. So it's actually, a lot of people ask if it's hard to pick up, but I didn't really have any trouble with it. Yeah?
What about if you're doing any finger tapping, any difference between a regular fretboard versus a multi-scale, or is it about the same?
It's just about the same, yeah. But the intonation would be better on this one because of the different scale lengths. But it's a very minute thing. It's not a real big thing. If you've noticed it though, when you've been playing, this tries to compensate for that little bit of out of tuneness that happens. There's a lot of different types of guitars that try to fix that. There's also guitars that sort of have these wavy fret lines, if you've seen them.
Right.
I had one of those actually from a Yamaha guitar I had made with that on it, but it didn't really work with altered tunings actually, because as soon as you changed the tunings it became absolutely bizarre and it didn't work. So, not a good solution for altered tunings. All right, yeah.
So I got to ask you this one: how did YouTube change your life?
Sure. Well, YouTube was it totally did change my life. If anyone said that, I think it applies here too. I was a guitar teacher in Topeka, Kansas for about 10 years, from I was about 17 to I was about 27. And I started to write my own tunes back in 1998 or so. I was about 19. And I had a regular gig like at a coffee shop downtown Topeka. And that was good, to help me build my confidence. Like if you have a regular gig, if you're a guitar player and you want to get comfortable with playing solo guitar, if you can get like a regular gig where it's like the same 6 people at that table, they've heard you every time, every week, and it doesn't really matter. They're probably talking, but it's still there's this element that you are in public, even if they're not paying the most attention. And I think that helped me actually get comfortable with playing. But so anyway, I was doing that for a long time, and then there's actually a fingerstyle guitar contest in Kansas, the International Fingerstyle Guitar Championship. So people come from all over the world to this thing, and it's in this tiny town called Winfield. And I heard about it, so I went and competed in it in the year 2000. And I didn't place anywhere that year. I actually covered a Don Ross tune and a Preston Reed tune, I think. And I went back the next year and actually played Drifting and She, and a couple of other songs off of my Nocturne album, which was this limited album I released. And I got third place, which was great, you know, and it kind of got me a little bit of attention with some people, and I got to go to Taiwan, which was the first time I really played outside of Kansas. Went all the way to Taipei, and yeah, exactly, yeah. And it was great, and I toured with two Japanese guitarists, Isato Nakagawa and Masaki Kishibe, and also Jacques Stotzen, who's a Belgian guitar player, and they both liked what I was doing, and I got to go to their countries. They invited me. But really, I was still teaching guitar. And sorry if this is taking a lot of time, I'll try and keep it a little bit brief, but I also ended up trying this Canadian Guitar Festival, which is still going, and they have this, it's a little bit more modern acoustic guitar stuff going on there. And I did well there, and I finally met Don Ross there, who was a big influence for me. And he invited me to play in Germany, and he was just getting on this label called Candy Rat Records, which you guys might be aware of, and I joined up with them, and they had the idea to shoot YouTube videos. It's just one guy, really. This guy, Rob Poland, runs the label. And he was like, yeah, it could be free publicity, we might get some new fans, you know, it could be good. Okay. So we shot about 8 videos just in one day when I was in Milwaukee, and we put them on YouTube. And I was actually at my teaching gig, and I had a student that didn't show up, and I just figured I'd get on the computer, went to YouTube, and I saw Drifting was on the front page. And it was kind of different than YouTube. It had a different layout. Like now it's kind of tailored to what you like they keep track of whatever you like, and they put videos there. Back then it was just they would put what they thought was kind of cool, or what was kind of getting some hits, and then they would feature it, sort of. So anyway, Drifting was on the front page then, and I called Rob, and I was like, oh my God, go to YouTube. And he's like, dude, you better buckle up, because this could be crazy. I was like, okay. And here we are. So yeah, it just really, I had no idea it would take off like it did. It was like an old song, like I said, you know, Drifting I wrote a long time ago, but it's really changed my life in a big way. I get to come out and play guitar in Houston and Taiwan and whatever. So yeah, it definitely changed my life. Yeah.
Who builds the guitar?